right. Looks like the clock has struck 7. So good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. It's very exciting to have all you folks here, a great group of bird and nature enthusiasts all together in one virtual room here. I know everybody's looking forward to spending the evening learning about the connection between the coffee we each choose to drink and the birds we love to see flying around here in the amazing state of Wisconsin. So welcome. My name is Shelley Torkelson. I'm the Communications Director at the Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin, also known as NRF. NRF is a statewide nonprofit here in Wisconsin that supports conservation and environmental education projects all over the state. We also host our state's largest bird conservation fundraiser, the Great Wisconsin Birdathon, which I'm betting some of you participate in. That event broke records again this year with more than 650 birders coming together to raise over $132,000 for bird conservation projects, which is amazing. NRF has the pleasure of co-hosting tonight's event with our friends at the Southern Wisconsin Bird Alliance and at SOS Save Our Songbirds. And this is the last of 3 webinars in the Mighty Migration series, which focuses on the amazing journeys that many animals make each spring and fall to find the food and shelter they need throughout the year. On Tuesday, on our first webinar for Mighty Migrations, Bill Volkert talked about many of the amazing aspects of bird migration. And then last night, Kyle Horton talked about how predicting bird movement and light pollution coalesce into lights out alerts. And tonight we will hear from Kirstin Hill about how important the coffee we drink is to migratory birds to protect their winter habitats. And after her presentation, we'll have some time for questions. Then we'll be joined by some bird-friendly coffee roasters and sellers who will share briefly about why they do this work. And each of these presentations are recorded, so if either of the ones we did previously sound really interesting, you can visit the website. And I don't know if one of the other hosts would like to drop the link in the chat. That would be awesome. So you can go to that link and you can watch and share the recordings far and wide. We hosted a similar series last year, actually. So it's not just those 2, but there's 3 others. One focusing on monarch butterfly migration, one on hummingbirds, and one on chimney swifts. So you can watch the recordings of those previous presentations using that same link. So now I'm excited to introduce Kirstin Hill. Kirstin is the program manager for Smithsonian Bird Friendly, which is the gold standard in biodiversity-friendly coffee. She is a conservationist at heart and an educator by training with over 15 years of experience working to engage audiences in the protection of wildlife and wild places. As the bird-friendly program manager, Kirstin works alongside coffee companies to increase consumer awareness and support for bird-friendly certified products, building a stronger bird-friendly community. So welcome, Kirstin, and thank you for sharing your time and expertise with us. And I'll stop sharing now and hand it over to you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Shelley. Really excited to have the opportunity to speak with everyone this evening. Thank you all for taking the time to join and for participating in the Mighty Migrations webinar series. It sounds like you've had some really great talks so far talking about the phenomenon of bird migration, and I'm very happy to be rounding out the series for you all. So just a little bit of background as we get started, or just to give you an idea of what we'll talk about this evening during the chat. So a lot of you are here because you are bird enthusiasts. You are probably not the ones asking the question, why birds? But that is a question we get quite a bit sometimes, is why birds, why coffee? How does this all kind of work out together? Also, what is bird-friendly coffee? What does it mean? What does it look like? What is and isn't it? And what are some of the benefits that bird-friendly coffee provides? And then lastly, we'll kind of round out with how to bring bird-friendly to your community, how to find it, where it's at in Wisconsin, and what are some ways that hopefully by the end of the talk, you'll be evangelized just like I am and wanting to spread the bird-friendly message, and how you can do that within your community in a way that helps us advance our bird conservation goals. So as we get started here, just a little bit about sort of the institution where I work and sort of our bird friendly program and how we came to be. So we are part of the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center. We're a program of the Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute, and housed at the Migratory Bird Center itself, which was founded in 1991. Our program and center is dedicated to understanding, conserving, and championing the grand phenomenon of bird migration. And we're home to the Bird Friendly program, which recently, just last year, celebrated our 25th year. So now we're in year number 26 of working to advance biodiversity conservation on the land where coffee and cocoa is grown. So when people ask us sort of why birds, what does this mean? Why are you all focused on birds at the Migratory Bird Center? We really like to kind of look at this quote from Thomas Lovejoy, who was a former National Zoo board member and tropical conservation biologist. I think it sums it up really nicely in kind of saying, if you take care of birds, you take care of most of the big environmental problems in the world. So that's kind of a nice way of saying and summarizing that birds are indicator species. They are usually the sign of a healthy ecosystem if there's a healthy and robust bird population. And conversely, if the bird population is not doing great in a particular ecosystem, it tends to be a good indicator that things are in trouble and that it's not a nice, healthy, robust environment. And unfortunately, when we look at birds, the study's a few years old now, and I'm sure you've seen clips of it and snippets of it multiple times. But just that loss of about 3 billion birds since 1970, it really just kind of hammers home the importance and kind of
You
the
can hear this,
conditions
me?
that are. I'm sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
I think somebody may have unmuted by accident. No problem. Yeah, so really just taking a look at the loss of 3 billion birds that have been kind of really just exacerbated over these last 50 years. And it's verified what our ornithologists within the Migratory Bird Center have been observing for years. And when we look at migratory birds in particular, that there's a very significant percentage of those nearly 3 billion birds that have been lost were migratory species. So we're looking at about 2.5 out of those 2.9 billion birds lost. And it's just a stunning loss for the number of individual birds that we're seeing in our
I
backyards.
have an idea, yes.
And one of the most significant drivers of this loss is habitat destruction. And this kind of starts to paint the picture a little bit about what we do within the bird friendly program and how we kind of got here. So 70% of tropical deforestation globally is driven by agriculture. And the map that you're seeing here sort of shows forest loss from between 2000 and 2017. And we know that habitat loss has been impacted wildlife for long, long, long times before that. So this is kind of an important thing because when we take a look at the next slide and we think about migratory birds in particular, these are birds of two worlds. So a lot of the birds that are, in that equatorial belt that you're seeing in the habitat map here, where habitat's being lost, that's this overwintering period. So that is the same regions, same areas where we're seeing a lot of migratory birds go to rest over the winter. That's where they're heading when they're migrating. So this has kind of been Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center's area of focus over, in the time that the center has been around, is understanding the phenomenon of bird migration, about where birds are going, and especially once they leave our habitat in North America, where is it that they're heading and what's happening down there, and how can we conserve these species? Because that's what kind of makes the conservation of migratory birds so interesting and so challenging, is that it's not just one area of habitat that needs to be protected. We're talking about the breeding grounds up north for us in these warm weather months that we're in right now. We're also talking about the overwintering period and those migration pathways in between as well. So they present a unique conservation challenge in that way. So a little bit of a history lesson now, and kind of thinking about how did we land in coffee? How did we go from studying migratory birds and trying to figure out what was going on to really thinking about, working in the coffee sphere to promote biodiversity habitat conservation in that way. So the gentleman that you see pictured is Dr. Russell Greenberg. He was the founding director of the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center and established the Smithsonian Bird Friendly Program along with Dr. Robert Rice. And long before the Migratory Bird Center was even around, Dr. Greenberg and his colleagues were trying to figure out where it was that migratory birds were going. They knew that these birds were spending part of the year around, in North America, in communities, in forests, in lots of different habitats, and then they sort of disappeared. And then warm weather rolled back around, and they came back most of the time. And so part of what Greenberg's research was actually just figuring out where these birds were going, and then as we saw numbers start to dip, what was happening to them along the way. So what are some of these conservation concerns that we need to understand, and then what are some of the solutions we can find to help protect these birds? So one of the study sites that he had was in Mexico, and in the 80s, he was down in Mexico, and the journal notes that you're seeing along the side here, those are observations of some of the different species that he was finding. And he's doing these researches, and if you kind of picture, he's like kind of on the side of a hill, on the slope of a hill in a forest. He looks across the valley, and he just can hear the birds from across the way, kind of thinking, oh, okay, wow, this looks like it's a really good habitat for birds. And from where he was standing, it looked like it was a pristine and undisturbed forest. However, when he made his way over, what he realized was it was actually a shade-grown coffee farm. So there was coffee planted in the understory, and then over top of the coffee was a nice, robust, dense, diverse native shade trees. And it was home to lots and lots and lots of migratory birds, and lots of other species as well. So he started to piece the puzzle, or put the puzzle pieces together, that shaded areas on coffee farms could potentially provide high value habitat for migratory birds. And as the team did a bit more research, what they realized was that the area where coffee is grown overlays quite a bit with these biodiversity hotspots that we find globally. So, coffee is actually the second most highly traded commodity globally, and over 27 million acres of land is used to farm coffee. So, historically, coffee was grown in that way, entirely under the shade. But in the 1970s, which if we remember back to just a few minutes ago, we were talking about that's also kind of like the start of our series of bird decline, of what we're thinking about there with that 3 billion bird study. So in the 70s, coffee farmers started to remove trees from their land and transition to more of a sun-grown monoculture, which could sometimes result in higher yields and has different benefits here and there. But basically, what they ended up doing was removing a lot of the trees, removing a lot of that habitat. And unfortunately, what kind of ended up happening was the world we're in today, where 3/4 of the world's coffee is farmed using practices that leave little or no space for birds and biodiversity. And when we take a look at those growing systems, it kind of really paints the picture and really kind of gives you a good idea as to, what it means for a shade grown coffee farm, for a bird friendly coffee farm to exist versus those sun grown monocultures. So the image that you're seeing on the left here, this is a sun grown monoculture. These are the coffee shrubs just sort of planted in rows. We've got one lone tree hanging out over here. But as you can see, very, very little space for birds and biodiversity to exist. When you contrast that with the shade-grown agroforestry system, if you don't necessarily know what you're looking for, you might not even know that this is a farm. You might not recognize that these are coffee shrubs in the understory here, and might just see this as kind of a robust, kind of tropical forested habitat. So hopefully it's easy to kind of visualize here and looking at it, just how important and how great a habitat that these agroforests can really be. And should be no surprise that the number of bird species that you're going to find is going to increase significantly in these shade-grown agroforestry habitats compared to the sun coffee monoculture. And as the scientists of Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center started to piece this together, this was what they realized, was that if they wanted to protect the most number of bird species, then they needed to protect this shade-grown agroforestry habitat, and they needed to find a way to incentivize the remaining producers who hadn't transitioned to that sun-grown monoculture into keeping that shade-grown habitat on their land. And so that's kind of how the Bird Friendly Program was established. We didn't set out to work in coffee. We didn't set out to create a certification. What Greenberg and Dr. Rice and others realized was that if we provided a market incentive, a market differentiator, something that producers could use to say, hey, this coffee is really good for birds and biodiversity, then that could be something that could set their coffee apart and could give them access to a new, a different, unique market, potentially allow them to make more money for their product, because it can be verified by Smithsonian in this way. And so that is kind of how the Bird Friendly Program came to be. And where we are now is Smithsonian Bird Friendly is a research, extension, and certification program created by Smithsonian to protect wildlife habitat on farms. So in the simplest terms, bird friendly coffee comes from farms just like the one that you saw on the previous slide, that provide really good forest-like habitat for birds and biodiversity. We're proud to be the gold standard in biodiversity-friendly coffee in environmental protection in the coffee and cocoa realm. All bird-friendly coffee that you see that's sold with that label is going to be 100% organic, as organic is a prerequisite for becoming bird-friendly certified. It's also going to be 100% deforestation free, meaning that there's no deforestation that's permitted on the land for a period of at least 10 years prior to certification. And it's also going to be 100% product pure, which means we don't mix or blend any other coffee beans with the bird friendly certified beans in order for them to be sold as bird friendly. And all of the farms that we work with through our certification program are actively conserving biodiversity through agroforestry and or forest conservation measures. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in just a bit. So how our bird-friendly supply chain works, what does it mean? It's not just the producers themselves who are part of this program, and I'm really excited to have three bird-friendly roasters on the call too. That's awesome. Really excited to hear from you all and about what gets you all excited about being part of this program too. So the way our supply chain works is we actually start not with the producers, but with the certifiers. So Smithsonian is a third-party certification program, which means that we provide training to a group of independent third-party auditors who are actually the ones who certify the farms themselves. So Smithsonian provides free training to any auditing company that wishes to become a bird-friendly certifier. We make sure that they know all of the standards for bird-friendly, they know how to accurately measure it, they know how to accurately report on it, they know and understand the importance of bird-friendly certification. So once the auditors complete those trainings, then they become accredited with our program and are able to begin certifying farms. So we work with 14 different companies for that. And those companies then go on to issue today around 60 certifications, which represent over 4,000 individual farms and farmers that are part of our program. So those certificates, those folks at the producer level, they are certified every 3 years. So that's how the bird friendly system works, where the auditor comes out to their farm. They take a look at the way that the coffee is grown, the way that the coffee is harvested and processed and packaged. They take a look at the traceability in the books, and that kind of allows them to make sure that everything is in line with Smithsonian standards. And if a farmer meets all of those standards set forth by Smithsonian, then they are able to trade their coffee as bird friendly. And that means they can sell into our network of 28 licensed importers who then sell coffee onto our community of over 100 roasters in 7 different countries now. I believe we're in for roasters, which is exciting, and that allows everyone to drink bird-friendly coffee worldwide. Those millions of consumers who look for that bird-friendly seal. So that's kind of how our program works. The producers themselves, they don't pay anything to Smithsonian. That's very important to us, that we're not charging anything to them for the hard work that they're doing to maintain the habitat on their land. Where we as Smithsonian generate our funds is through licensing agreements. So we collect licensing fees from our importers and then a royalty fee from coffee roasters on the volume of green coffee that they purchase for their bird-friendly roasts. And that's kind of what funds our Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center program and research. And last year, we were really excited to hit the 4 million pound milestone as first time in our program's history that we had over 4 million pounds of bird-friendly coffee moving through our supply chain. And that coffee was coming from over 14 different countries and protecting over 34,000 acres in those lands. So just to talk a little bit more about the certification pathways, as I alluded to just a few minutes ago. So there's the prerequisite to becoming bird friendly, which is holding active organic certification, and then demonstrating zero deforestation for a period of at least 10 years. And then the active biodiversity conservation piece, that can happen through either one of two ways, through either agroforestry pathways, which is basically shade-grown coffee, where coffee is grown in understory, or through a new forest conservation pathway, which launched just a couple of years ago, and that works to actively conserve pristine forest for the sake of forest with no agriculture happening there. So a little bit more about what those criteria look like and kind of what makes them really good for birds. So for the agroforestry pathway, what we look for is a minimum of 40% shade cover in coffee. So basically, if you can imagine you're standing in the middle of the coffee farm, you look up and about 40% or more of what you're seeing is covered by leaves. It's covered by that canopy. So there's no shade, excuse me, less sunlight that's coming through. We also look for a minimum of 10 tree species on the land for agroforestry systems, and a majority of those tree species need to be native to that region. And the reason behind that is that native trees tend to house a much healthier insect population for the birds to eat when compared to introduced or non-native species. So it's kind of the human equivalent of choosing to eat a salad for dinner versus a bag of Doritos or your favorite, potato chip of choice. So the insects are going to be healthier. They're going to be more nutritionally robust. They're going to be better and healthier for the birds in that way. And then we also look for a canopy height of around 12 meters or growing if this is a kind of a younger bird-friendly system in that way as another criteria for us. We also look for additional criteria that are considered more recommended versus required, and that has to do with just because different growing systems in different countries, sometimes these requirements make sense, and other times it's just not compatible with how the coffee is grown or where the coffee is grown. Um, and just things that have been determined over time to be better for birds, but not essential to maintaining those extraordinarily high, high needs for in those primary criteria of shade cover tree species, native trees, and canopy height. And those are things like structural diversity. So we want to see multiple strata. So in the image here, you can kind of see there's the coffee on the bottom, and then we've got kind of another layer of trees here. You move up, you've got the canopy a bit further up. So just different layers of trees that provide new and different nesting areas and places for food to hide, places for birds to hide. So that structural diversity is important there. We also want to see stumps and snags, epiphytes, basically anything that can be maintained within the habitat to be more of a forest. So anything that's going to make the habitat look more like a forest than a farm, those are things we want to see remaining on the land. And then riparian buffers as well. So if there's any sort of river or stream or creek or things like that, we want to have a buffer there between where the coffee is grown and the river, and that's just better for soil and ecosystem health there. So that's the agroforestry pathway, and then a bit about the forest conservation pathway. So this is, as I mentioned, a newer pathway for our program for producers to achieve bird-friendly certification. And basically what we look for is within the land that they have rights over, whether it's tenure or ownership, that 40% of that land is going to be maintained as either primary or secondary forest, where no resource extraction is occurring and no farming is happening on that land. So it's just basically forest for the sake of forest. And the reason why this pathway was kind of developed was our scientists did some research on the types of birds that were using the agroforests versus the birds that were saying, even though that agroforest is a great habitat, I'm still not going to use that. I just need the pristine forest. And some of the most at-risk species are the ones that are more particular in their habitat in that way, as I'm sure you can imagine. So that forest for the sake of forest, the forest conservation pathway was developed to provide protection measures and to reward producers who are just conserving that land. They're protecting that forest and providing really important habitat for those forest specialist species that really only use a forest if nothing else is happening within it. And those at-risk species really benefit from this new pathway, which is really great. So in addition to having a 40% conserved forest, we want the forest that they are managing to be within 2 kilometers of the farmland and to have an active management plan in place. So as I mentioned, the producers have to have either tenure or ownership rights over the land itself. It can't be part of like a park or an area that they don't maintain the rights to, within their system or within their ownership, and that have that management in place that shows and demonstrates that that forest will remain conserved in the future. And then again, no resource extraction occurring within that land. And for these folks, the agroforestry criteria that I mentioned on the previous slide, that becomes recommended. So we always recommend that the coffee continues to be grown, under that dense and diverse, robust native shade. But if the forest conservation markers are being achieved, then if they don't make that requirement or meet those requirements for the robust shade, that's okay because they're actively conserving this forest that provides really high quality habitat, best as it can be, for birds and biodiversity. So I'm going to pause for a moment and just ask the chat. It looks like the chat is on. If you want to put in the chat your best guess of how many species you think benefit from bird-friendly coffee, I would love to see what y'all have to say. It gives me a good opportunity to stop and get a drink of water. All right, let's see. 275, 100, 55, 1,000. I love the diversity of guesses. It always feels a little bit like playing Price is Right. I love the Price is Right, so maybe this is just my bias showing. 4,500. It's okay, Rachel. No worries on the overbid. I love the guesses here for everybody. And as we think about this, we think about it just in sort of a ratio. So 1 in 10 bird species globally utilizes habitat on or near bird-friendly certified coffee farms, which I think is really cool. And that includes some of the birds that you all might see in Wisconsin this time of year. So bird-friendly farms can support over 4 times more birds than sun-grown monocultures. And some of these birds are hopefully ones that you all have seen as you're out birding is in Wisconsin during the warm weather months. And then as the weather gets chillier, they're getting ready to pack their bags, metaphorical bags, to head south. And they're going to be spending some time in our coffee landscape. So up here, we see the scarlet tanager. This is actually a really cool bird that has a great connection to our program in particular. We banded a scarlet tanager. I guess it was last summer now. Last summer and released the bird back out. And then the bird was actually resighted. So it was a male scarlet tanager was resighted in Kentucky, and that almost never happens. There's a group of folks that were kind of out birding. They saw a bird that had a band on it, and they kind of did a little bit of questioning within the local fish and wildlife in their community, and they realized that the only group that was tagging this type of bird with those types of bands that were used was us. And they contacted us and they said, "Hey, is this your tanager?" And we were super excited to say yes, it was. So we noticed that this or found that this bird had migrated from Colombia. On a coffee farm all the way up to Kentucky, and then presumably had made its way back and forth in those regions. But it's really cool for a program to have a resighting like that. That's a very, very rare occurrence in the bird science world, which is cool. So these are all my long distance migrants who are overwintering in Central and North America. We call them coffee birds as a collective. So they're spending time using the habitat on shade-grown coffee farms. So we have different warbler species, including the cerulean warbler right down here, the golden-winged warbler, who you all might see. We have the American redstart, the Baltimore oriole, and many, many more. So lots of warblers that you're going to find in coffee farms as well as up in our communities this time of year. So hopefully that's one of your favorites or some of your birds that you're spotting in Wisconsin this time of year. And then, yeah, when we think about this, these birds and so many others are using habitat on this bird-friendly shade, which this is from our fieldwork in Peru. We can support 243 bird species just in this one study, looking at bird-friendly shade compared to partial shade, where you're getting 79 bird species, and full sun, where there are still birds, just not nearly as many. So our bird-friendly shade is providing habitat for, 4 times more the number of birds that you're going to see compared to the sun-grown monoculture. But it's not just the birds that are benefiting too. I know you all are a birding audience, but the benefits to bird friendly go far beyond that. So bird friendly farms also provide excellent habitat for amphibians and small mammals, for insects, and even for larger carnivores. We actually just had a farm certify last year, at the end of last year, that is in a really important habitat for Andean bears. So even larger carnivores like bears are benefiting from bird friendly farming practices, which is really cool. And they've been in that corridor and really excited to kind of have that be part of the bird friendly story now. Birds, bears, who knows what's next. So we are also seeing on bird friendly farms that they're more climate resilient. So they're the shade that's over the canopy, or excuse me, the canopy that's over the coffee crop rather, is protecting the crop from burning up in the case of extreme heat events where there's lots and lots of sun. I can attest from having been on a bird friendly farm, the difference between standing in the farm under the shade versus when you walk out back into the sun is very, very palpable. And it's much, much cooler underneath in the shade there. So that really helps the farmers. It helps the producers from losing crops from burning up when things get or drying up when things get too hot. They're also much more resilient in the case of floods and extreme rain, things like that. So the roots of the trees that are maintained on the habitat, they're shoring up the soil and keeping the crop from getting washed out when you have major floods that come through. The amount of leaf litter and the plant biodiversity that you're seeing in the bird friendly farming system as well is really helping to increase soil fertility and moisture. So that just helps like act as a natural fertilizer for the coffee and kind of keeps the soil healthy there. And then the trees themselves, of course, are sequestering carbon. So they're drawing carbon out from the atmosphere down into the biomass of the tree. And that, of course, helps to make this a climate positive product as well. So, or a crop as well, actively working to fight climate change. And bird friendly coffees can also help producers to earn more money for their coffee. So by protecting that habitat on their land, they get sort of the ability to access the market for bird friendly and can sell their coffee at a higher rate than somebody who maybe does not have that certification. So these are things that kind of all are co-benefits to bird friendly that move beyond birds themselves. And then, as a thank you from the birds, really, for providing that habitat on their land, there's lots of ecosystem services that producers receive by keeping great habitat for birds on their land. So birds are, of course, excellent pollinators. They don't pollinate coffee, but they will pollinate other trees and crops that you may find on the coffee farmlands. They're also excellent at seed dispersal and pest control, insect control. So when birds are on your land, they're taking care of some of those problems for you, so you're not having to deal with those things themselves. And these guys, the Los Comibroncos, this is a little bit of a like kind of a fun project that our partners in Selva in Colombia came up with. So this is the chestnut cap warbler that you're seeing here. And this little guy is really great at picking off coffee berry borer beetles. And coffee berry borers are a major threat to coffee production. So they live, feed, and breed inside of the coffee cherry, and their presence can severely impact the quality of the coffee beans that are produced. And there's a study in Jamaica that looked at 3 migratory species that comprised 50% of predation detections on coffee berry borer beetles. They're the prairie warbler, the black-throated blue warbler, and the American redstart. And those are birds that are only present if shade trees are present. So if they're in an agroforestry system. So those birds are kind of doing the work for the farmers, taking care of those coffee berry borers and helping to preserve and even boost their income by taking care of that issue for them. All right, so one more poll for you all, and let's see what folks have to say for this one. Can you tell me in the chat, is shade-grown coffee the same as bird-friendly coffee? I'd like to know what you're thinking there. Is shade-grown the same as bird-friendly?
Let's see, no.
Not quite similar, but not the same.
All right, I'm seeing some no's. Heard some folks chiming in. Maybe shade-grown is a subset of bird-friendly. Y'all have been paying attention. Love it. All right. I think the consensus in the chat is no. And y'all are, for the most part, correct. So all bird-friendly coffee kind of has the ability to be shade-grown coffee. Shade-grown coffee has the ability to be bird-friendly coffee. However, those two concepts are not guarantees of one another. So if you hear something or see something that's labeled as shade grown, that does not guarantee that it is bird friendly. So great job, everybody, paying attention in the chat. That it's a as all good scientists, we have to be thorough in our responses. That it's a not always, but often the case. It is it's not quite shade grown coffee equals bird friendly coffee. So a lot of times we do get the question sort of what makes bird friendly different. How is it different from just coffee that says shade grown, or I want to support bird friendly. I already buy organic, or I already buy Rainforest Alliance, or my roaster says that they're buying shade grown coffee. Is that enough? What does that mean? And so we created this little chart to kind of help tell that story a little bit, and to think about how bird friendly does differentiate from a lot of these other certifications, or even just generic terms that you might hear out in the coffee buying world when you're looking for your next cup. So up here, we are bird friendly at the top, of course. Shade cover is strictly regulated. So as we said, it's 40% shade cover that's mandated through the agroforestry criteria. So that's something that we pay very close attention to and is very important. There's a specific measure that is taken when auditors go out onto the farm and produce or take part in the bird friendly inspection, a number that they have to match in order for the farm to receive bird friendly certification. When we think about pesticide regulation, there are no pesticides, the synthetic pesticides or fertilizers that are permitted, and all farms are providing habitat for a diverse community of birds and other wildlife with those active conservation measures in place. When we take a look at Rainforest Alliance and how that compares, they have some optional shade cover that is part of their recommended criteria, but it's not something that's strictly regulated like it is with bird friendly. They do also allow limited pesticides in through their certification criteria. And as a result, some farms provide some habitat for birds and other wildlife, but the spectrum is much, much wider for Rainforest Alliance. So it's not nearly the guarantee that you're getting with bird friendly. When we think about fair trade, they do not take a look at shade cover. That's not something that they regulate because their focus is more on fair prices being paid to the producers that grow the coffee. For pesticide regulation, it's recommended or optional criteria that they have for them. And there's no regulations that are in place to help birds and other wildlife because their focus is much different. It is on, like I said, that fair and sustainable pricing to producers, not on biodiversity habitat there. Then we move on to organic. So organic does not look at all at shade coverage and regulation there. However, they do have and mandate that zero synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. So their criteria for pesticide regulation matches ours because bird friendly is basically an add-on, a plus to organic. And of course, biodiversity as a result benefits from the chemical restrictions that are in place through organic, but there's no habitat protection measurements that are in place. And when we think about shade grown, this is a term that is kind of ripe for greenwashing, unfortunately, because there is no regulated or set definition. This is not a certification. It's not verified by a third party. Anybody can call their coffee shade grown, and it can mean anything from they've planted 1 or 2 trees, once every hectare, and some coffee grows under one tiny little shade tree, all the way up through bird friendly, dense and diverse native shade. So shade grown can mean bird friendly, but it does not mean those two terms are interchangeable. So there's also no pesticide regulations that have anything to do with shade grown. And as a result, you're getting some farms that do provide habitat for birds. However, it's not the same as bird friendly. So hopefully by this point, you've learned quite a bit about the bird friendly certification, about what it means and the impact that we have for birds and biodiversity, and you're eager to join the program. You're eager to get involved, to join the movement, to make the switch to bird friendly certified coffee. So kind of as we enter this last little bit of the talk here, just going to give you guys or arm you with some different ways that you can help get involved with Smithsonian Bird Friendly. So the first is, of course, an easy one. Hopefully you guys are already doing this, but in case you aren't, you can make that switch to Smithsonian Bird Friendly certified coffee. You can visit our website, so it's birdfriendly.si.edu, to buy Bird Friendly certified coffee online. And in a couple of slides, I'm going to have some more info about resources specific to Wisconsin to share with you as well. But we have on our website both info on online points of sale as well as retail locations where you can look for bird friendly coffee in your own community. If you do not find bird friendly in your own community, we have ways for you to help us with that too. So one of the biggest drivers that we hear of from roasters and retailers who are interested in bird friendly, they come to us because they say, people in my community, my customers keep asking me about bird friendly, and I want to know what it is and I want to get involved because it's important to them. So now it's important to me too. So y'all can help us recruit new roasters and to kind of make bird friendly more accessible to your community in that way. So let them know that this is something that you've learned about, that it's important for you, to you, and that you would love to see them roasting and selling bird friendly certified coffee. We also have a number of different bird-friendly resources that are out there. So we've created a series of toolkits that was originally aimed for the zoo and aquarium community, but there's lots of different assets in there. So if you all are hosting any sort of, participating in any sort of community event, or have other avenues and areas where you have the opportunity to reach different people, there's resources within our toolkits here that can help make those things easier for you, make it easier for you to talk about bird friendly and to integrate it into the programming that you already have going on. And then, of course, as you all are kind of getting out there, spreading the word, so different avenues you could take there is for your favorite place where you're currently buying coffee, whether that's a local shop, a grocery store, natural foods market. Some folks are buying from their local birding store, or just asking their folks there to say, hey, did you know about this program? We're still a relatively niche program, all things considered. So sometimes people just don't even know that we exist. And to say, hey, I think you should all start carrying bird friendly certified coffee. Similarly, generating awareness at any community events or things like that you're doing, or even just sharing the bird friendly story with your network. No one is a better advocate for the people that are within your network than you. It means so much more for these messages to come from you all as the ones who are, leaders in your own right, in your communities, in your social circles, to be able to tell people, hey, this is a cool thing that I learned about, and I think we should all get on board with it. Here's how we can make that happen. That's a really powerful message. And then we have these handy little drink bird friendly cards that you are welcome to print out and drop off wherever you purchase your coffee, to let folks know when they scan the QR code, it auto populates an email to me that I can then answer to help connect them to bird friendly coffee sources.
Yes, because they read.
And then as we think about Wisconsin in particular, so I wanted to shine a spotlight a little bit on where you're going to be able to find bird-friendly coffee in Wisconsin. So we have Arco Coffee. They are in Superior. They are going to be up here in northern Wisconsin. I learned my Wisconsin geography a little bit ago as I was putting this map together. So forgive me if they're not exactly perfect, but I got as close as I think I could. We also have Barnwood Coffee Company in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, Be Our Guest, and Nunatak Coffee, which you're going to be hearing from Matt and Josiah in just a little bit. Matt from Be Our Guest, one of our newest bird-friendly coffee roasters, and Josiah from Nunatak, coming in and talking about their participation in the bird-friendly program as well. In addition to these roasters that are based in Wisconsin, there's lots of other locations where you can buy bird-friendly coffee in Wisconsin. So Birds and Beans, who we're going to be hearing from Bill Wilson in a little bit too. He's been leading up the charge at Birds and Beans for a number of years now, one of our longest standing partners. And he's in a lot of, and his coffee is in a lot of the Wild Birds Unlimited stores. So if you're going to pick up seed for your bird feeder or anything else that you might be stopping by a Wild Birds Unlimited store for, you can also often find some Birds and Beans delicious coffee in those locations too. We're also in the Northeast Wisconsin Zoo for anybody in that neck of the woods, in the Nutrition Center, Wild Bird and Backyard. So there's lots of different places where you can find bird-friendly coffee in your communities. Or as I mentioned earlier, you can always buy online, where we have, over 100 roasters in the community. So a bird-friendly coffee for every taste, I like to say. So as we close out the talk for tonight, I just want to kind of talk about a little bit of kind of like one of my favorite things to think about when I think about the impact that our program has. So this is a photo that I took from a trip out to Tofino. I live up in BC, British Columbia. I was on Vancouver Island, and I was just kind of thinking about, the work that we're doing. And, sitting there, I'm sipping my cup of bird-friendly coffee that I brought along with me. And maybe, we see a warbler fly by, or we see an oriole in our backyard as, coming up to perch at a feeder. And when you think about it, that individual bird that you're seeing right in front of you could be benefiting from the very coffee that's in your cup. And I think that's just an incredible connection that we have to conservation. So rarely do we get that opportunity to make a choice to take an action that can benefit those birds, those animals that we're seeing every single day. So if you love seeing these birds in your backyard, if you love going out and birding, if you love walking through a park and hearing the bird song, when you think about the coffee that's in your cup, that those individual birds are there because that habitat is being protected within those coffee growing lands. So if that's not enough of a motivation to hopefully get you to choose bird friendly coffee, I don't know what is. That's the best story I've come up with. I know it gives me chills every time I think about it, that these birds are here because of the choices that we make, and we want to keep protecting them. So it's critically important for us to kind of be thinking about the ways that we can take small actions to make sure that they have a safe space to head to in that overwintering time. And then, of course, that helps marry up with all of the different things that we're doing here in our own backyards, like planting native pollinators, switching out lights at night, keeping your cats indoors, all of those things that help make sure that birds are safe year round throughout that migration cycle. So with that, I just want to say thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a true pleasure to be able to speak with you all this evening about the Smithsonian Bird Friendly Program. If you have any questions for us, I'm happy to take questions now, but then also feel free to shoot me an email anytime, and we are happy to answer your questions there as well. Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kirstin, so much. That was great. I just learned literally everything about bird-friendly coffee, and I'm feeling very satisfied. That was a very clear and interesting explanation of the differences between the different coffees people might be consciously choosing, and I really appreciated that. Um, and I had no idea there were thousands of farmers participating in this. You said 4,000?
Yeah, over
That's so
4,000, and
amazing.
that's individual farms. So a lot of our certificate holders are folks that are part of a larger cooperative. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
coffee is grown by sort of smallholder farmers that are only farming, a few hectares at a time, and so they work to kind of make it easier to export their coffee and things like that. They work with these larger cooperatives and producer groups. So even though it seems like a small number, that's only 60 companies that are doing that, or 60 groups, it's representative of over 4,000 farms, and the individual farmer number is even higher than that. I don't even think we have a guess as to how many folks there are, because there's so many people that are involved in coffee growing and harvesting.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Um, Well, folks, we have some time for questions for Kirstin before we bring in the bird-friendly coffee roasters and hear from them. There was one question in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and ask that one. But after Kirstin answers that, if anybody would like to unmute themselves, I think with a group this size, we can probably handle the unmuting-based system. Feel free to, after she's done with this first one, unmute yourself and ask a question if you have one, or you can just type them into the chat and I will ask them for you. That is fine as well. So the first question we got in the chat is from Marjorie, who asked, is there a bird-friendly certification for chocolate too, or just for coffee?
Yes, Marjorie, you've been doing your homework. We launched the Bird Friendly Cocoa program and the cocoa certification a few years ago. So we had a pilot that ran for a couple of years and change, once we finally got our I's dotted and T's crossed, to talk about cocoa and how cocoa and cacao is grown, and kind of to fold that into the bird friendly certification. So yes, we do have two currently licensed chocolate makers where you can purchase bird friendly certified chocolate products from. So that's Rocca Chocolate in Brooklyn, New York, and Seahorse Chocolate out of Bend, Oregon. So they are the two that are currently licensed to sell bird friendly certified chocolates. And a lot of that chocolate is coming from Zorzal Cacao, which is in the Dominican Republic. So they're the first farm that became certified through bird friendly. And the certification criteria are almost identical to coffee. There's a couple of minor changes. The shade cover, our scientists determined on cocoa producing farms, only needed to be 30% to provide that excellent habitat for birds, whereas most of the other criteria remain the same. So yeah, so that's a newer arm for our program. It's very small at the moment, but it's something that earlier just today I was writing back and forth, messaging back and forth with a new chocolate maker who I think is going to be joining the program. So we're excited to have that grow. we are just kind of trying to keep up with everything. We're a very, very small team. So when you talk about kind of the difference between us and kind of some of the other certification programs that are out there, like Rainforest Alliance, for example, has a staff of I think 700 plus. We have 3 people who work full time on Bird Friendly. It's not a large program at all. And then a number of scientists who support our work and do a lot of really great research. But when we think about full-time employees for Bird Friendly, there's 3 of us.
That's awesome. Are you using the same logo, the same bird-friendly logo for the coffee?
It looks very similar, except it'll say cocoa underneath. So cocoa is that's the kind of the differentiator because on a chocolate bar, you're never just eating coffee, or excuse me, just eating cocoa like you are with, say, like a coffee product, buying a bag of coffee. It's just coffee that's going to be in there. With cocoa, it's at least going to be the cacao or the cocoa and the sugar. A lot of our chocolate products are kind of those 2 ingredients, just those 2 bean to bar. But we wanted to verify and differentiate that it's the cocoa within that product that is bird friendly certified and not the sugar or any other ingredient that's in there. Unless,
Right.
and we're working on it, on getting kind of like a bird friendly coffee infused chocolate bar, which would be really cool. But I'm pestering our chocolate makers about that, and they're trying to work on it. I saw
Sounds
Lisa's
good.
question there. What
Yeah.
about French Broad and Dandelion? So those were 2 companies that participated in our pilot for bird-friendly cocoa. They have kind of decided that they didn't want to move forward with the kind of the continued full-scale implementation of bird-friendly cocoa. So we are very grateful to them for their participation in the pilot. Wish them all the best, but they're not currently licensed with us to sell bird-friendly chocolates.
All right. Does anybody want to ask a question by unmuting themselves? Oh, there's one more in the chat. Can you see that, Kirsten? I can read it as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Is
So is the figure about how there are 4 times as many birds in agroforestry versus sun-grown monoculture based on number of species or number of individuals? Number of species. So bird-friendly habitat can support 4 times as many bird species as the sun-grown monoculture can. Good question. Estimate for number of individuals. Ooh, I would be making it up if I did. It'd be a very, very lean too heavily on the word estimate. So I don't have a number for you. Sorry.
all right. I have a question I could ask. Sorry, I'm a very curious person. If anybody else has another one, feel free to throw it in the chat or unmute yourself. But could you speak a little bit to the extent to which buying organic benefits birds? I mean, it was very helpful to see it on the chart, but if you want to speak a little bit more to that, it's just since organic options are so easy to find, is that a good plan B if you're, at the store and there isn't a bird-friendly option, or what do you suggest people do?
Yeah, for sure. So, if I know bird friendly, one of the biggest barriers is that it's just not accessible to a lot of folks. That folks want to be supporting bird friendly, but it's hard to find in their community, or they don't want to have to purchase their coffee online, or they just want it to be more convenient in a store. And we're working on it. Is the best I can say. There is that we're trying to get bird friendly into as many communities as we can, so that it's super accessible, super easy for folks to be able to choose a bird-friendly coffee when they take it home, whether it's, by the cup or, by the container as well. But if you're out and you really want to buy coffee at the grocery store or wherever it is that you're shopping and you don't see a bird-friendly option that's there, organic does offer kind of a next best option for you because a lot of organic coffee is grown under some sort of shade. So while there aren't any specific habitat requirements that are associated with organic coffee and organic certification at that level, what we found is that in practice, many of the farmers who hold organic certification are maintaining some sort of shade, some sort of habitat on their farm that just kind of goes along with the ethos of what they're doing. And you don't see many sun-grown monocultures that are organic. So it's not a
Mm.
guarantee by any stretch, but it is something where we found just sort of like in taking a look at things that it's rare for a sun-grown monoculture to be certified organic.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, if anybody has other questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat, and we will have a little more time for questions at the very end tonight. But I think we can go ahead then and introduce a handful of bird-friendly coffee roasters who have joined us tonight to share their perspective. We have Matt Erzman, I hope I'm saying that right, from Be Our Guest Coffee in the Milwaukee area, and Josiah Villman of Nunatak Coffee in Beaver Dam. And we also have Bill Wilson from Birds and Beans Coffee in Vermont. So it would be so great to hear from you all. If you could talk briefly about what bird friendly means to you and to your businesses. And then let me see. I have a slide from Barnwood Coffee. Let me see if I can share this. They are also oh my gosh, where is it? This is what I get for minimizing things. Here we go. They are also a bird-friendly roaster, and they wanted to participate tonight, but weren't able to make it. Can everybody see this okay? Um, so before our live folks chime in, I just wanted to talk about them briefly. Barnwood Coffee Company is in Two Rivers, and Amy Haban, I don't know if I'm saying that right here, but I hope I am, is the roaster and was unable to participate, but she is a stalwart of the local coffee and chocolate tasting events, and she got certified in November of 2024, and her coffee is available for purchase, and she participates in a lot of online events. And people can sign up to get her newsletter to learn more about the events that she'll be at. They roast fresh every Friday at an 1891 farmhouse, which is pretty cool. They have 3 bird-friendly roasts, and there you can see their website, and they have $5 flat rate shipping or pickup at Barnwood on Sunday mornings. So I wanted to share a little bit about them real quick. And then you 3 who are on the call, thank you so much for being here. Um, let's see, Josiah, would you like to unmute yourself and share a little bit about yourself first?
I sure would. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes.
Yeah. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, I'm Josiah Villman from Nunatak Coffee Roasters. We're in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, and I guess I want to thank Kirstin um, for being here and Lisa for inviting me for sure. We've been certified bird friendly roaster for just over a year, and we have one blend particularly that we focus our bird friendly aspects on at this point, just because I think the challenge in making sure that we can have a well-rounded, full facet of coffees that are bird friendly. But we plan to try to expand upon that. But we've really focused on that because it's a coffee taste profile that fits in really nicely. It's a breakfast blend style coffee, and some of the South and Central American producing regions, we've just had really good luck in having good inventories from. So it's helped with that a lot. But we've been roasting since 2003, and I think we just really like coffee, and we really like birds. And I can't believe it took us till last year to get to figure out our way to be a bird friendly roaster. And some of that's just from some searching and some help from one of our importers in directing us towards Kirstin. Yeah, that's what we do. We roast in a old renovated car dealership in Beaver Dam, and we wholesale out of here and roast, and we've enjoyed some success. So we're happy. But and I need to say, I had no idea there was 3 full-time employees with bird friendly, and I thought I was overworked. I'm shocked. That's amazing. But yeah, that's thank you, bird friendly. What a prestigious group to be a part of. I can't. It's so nice to have it. It's what a wonderful option for people to be able to say, I want good coffee, and I want to support the environment, birds in particular. So that's that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Josiah, for introducing yourself and your coffee. Bill, I'm gonna give you the last position, the place of honor. So save the best for last, right? Uh, Matt, would you like to talk a little bit about your bird-friendly journey as well?
Most certainly.
Thank
And
you.
also, thank you guys, Kirstin, and all of you guys. And my name is Matt Erisman. I'm the head roaster and green buyer for Guest Coffee in Milwaukee. We are just starting roasting. We are part of the Discourse Coffee group. Discourse Coffee has been around for 7 years. They started up in the Sister Bay region. We now have 2 cafes in Milwaukee. And about 3 or 4 months ago, I Discourse decided they wanted to start roasting their own coffee. And so they brought me on. I have 17 years of coffee experience or roasting experience. I started in 2005 at Starbucks before I took a job woofing, which is a worldwide opportunities on organic farms. I spent a year on a coffee farm in Kona, Hawaii. Um, and when I did that, and I will stop talking about myself in a second, but it's pertinent to the story. We had a small plot of our 5 acre farm that was under canopy, and it was mostly macadamia nut trees, but there was some other trees as well. Um, and anytime I had a break, I would go there because of the sounds. It was just so different than anywhere else on the farm. And it also, in my opinion, had the best coffee on the farm. Um, we were small enough that I was able to separate those lots and taste them individually. And it was always just like, even blind, you can tell that it was better. And so when I took this job, it was incredibly important for me to bring on a bird-friendly coffee. And so one of the first uh, things I did was reach out to Kirstin and start this process. And we now have a couple of coffees that are available for purchase at Discourse. But starting next weekend, this is a world premiere. We have our first bird-friendly coffee here. This art was done by someone who's in raptor conservation. Her name is Cheyenne Smith. She works at Schultz Audubon Nature Center, and she did an incredible job with this image. I don't know if you guys can see it well, but so starting in a little over a week, so Friday, a week from Friday, you will be able to buy this at all of our Discourse cafes. And then as pretty soon after that, it'll be available at Schlitz Audubon Nature Center, and we will be putting it out to all sorts of other places. It will be available online November 1st is when we're planning on being able to launch that. This is a coffee that's exclusively Guatemala Guayabí, which accounts for 634 of the 4,000 farmers that she was talking about. So in this bag, 630, well, probably not in that bag, but 634 farmers contributed to this. So that's us, Guest Coffee in Milwaukee.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Um, all right. And then Bill, the original bird-friendly coffee roaster, right? Or one of the originals?
Well, no, our partners in Canada, Birds and Beans Canada, were pretty early, and there's an outfit out in Utah, Cafe Ibis, which I think was probably the first one that's still going. Yeah. So in 2008, I was looking for something to do that was interesting, worthwhile, and that I could be uh, focused on for the rest of my working career, which now will be until I die. because, as these two guys know, you don't get rich selling bird-friendly coffee, but you have a lot of fun. Anyhow, I I have a friend named Scott Weidensaul who's a ornithologist conservationist, and he wrote a book called Living on the Wind. And in that book, there was a section about coffee. And I remembered in the late 80s, I think it was, Starbucks started to do a little bit of work on shade grown coffee, and then it disappeared. Anyhow, so in Scott's book was this section about shade grown coffee and bird conservation. And I love coffee. I love birds. This is a true story. The first sentence I ever said was, "Look, see the bird." And with Katie Fallon, one of our other colleagues, I wrote a book for children called "Look, See the Bird" about shade-grown coffee, about bird-friendly coffee. Anyhow, long story painless. I talked to these guys in David and Madeline in Canada about this. What's this all about from a business point of view? So from Scott and then a woman named Bridget Stutchberry, who's a recently retired professor at York University, a guy named Ken Kaufman and his wife Kim, who are big bird geeks down in Ohio, and Ken Rosen and the other guy that used to run Cornell. I talked about what's this really all about, and of course it was about habitat protection in a way that was commercially viable. And I really liked that because I understood that as much as we want to clutch our pearls and wring our hands about protecting tropical forests, I think the only thing that can protect tropical forests is a commercial system that is good for the earth as well as good for the farmers. So I went to about 20 coffee roasters in the Northeast, and I said, why don't we start one SKU, one roast of coffee that you sell through your cafe and coffee business that's bird friendly, and we'll promote it overall, and we'll send people to each other. Well, I found out, and these two guys know it, that coffee roasters are a lot like London cab drivers. They actually don't want to work for anybody but themselves. So I said to Scott, gee, Scott, I don't know. I can't get buy-in on this, and I don't really understand it because by then I had tried a lot of coffee and some shade-grown coffee, some bird-friendly coffee, and I knew it was good, or almost as good as you could get in the market. And we used the Guayab, we used anyhow. We're going to have to start a brand. And how hard can that be? Because I had been in that business for a long time. And I called Madeline and David up back in Toronto, and still named Toronto, I think. And I said, how does this work? And they told me, and they told me the ups and downs. And they said, whatever you do, don't go into this business. It's a heartbreaker because it's very hard to get the message across. And then I talked to Randy Worth out at Cafe Ibis, and he sadly is no longer with us. And he and his wife Sally started the business. And Randy told me a lot about it. And I said, look, this just can't be that hard because it's such a clear and easy story. You can't have a healthy earth without healthy forests and farms. And if you don't have healthy forests and farms, you're not going to have a healthy earth. If you're not going to have a healthy earth, you're not going to have birds. And if you don't have birds, what are we going to have? So we started Birds and Beans Coffee in the United States. And this year, it's a long story, but we started in 2008. And this year, our sales will be about what I thought they would be in 2011. We've been in and out of grocery stores. We've been in and out of Whole Foods. We're a little bit still in Nature's Market, not Nature's Market, Nature's Grocer, the Southwest. But mostly we're direct to consumer. So our business is about 70%, 80% really direct to consumer, and about 20% a delicious hodgepodge of small mom and pop grocery stores, some Wild Birds Unlimited stores, some independent wild bird food stores, some nature centers, a great garden shop in the Panhandle of Florida that only does natural native plants. And we went down to the coffee lands, and I talked to Bridget, who had been part of the team that worked with Russ and Russ Greenberg and Bob Rice about, okay, where's the first place we should go to get coffee from a bird's point of view? Don't worry about the coffee side. David and Madeline can help us with that. And she said Nicaragua. And Kirstin knows why Nicaragua, because a lot of birds go to Nicaragua, and a lot of birds go through Nicaragua on their way further south and further north. So we went to Nicaragua, and we worked with Bob Rice, and we got a couple of farms certified. And that was it. We just sort of never looked back. So we buy coffee from Nicaragua, from Guatemala, from Honduras, and from Peru. And we only buy coffee that's certified bird friendly, fair trade, and of course, organic comes with the bird friendly. And we've never sold a bag that didn't have those beans in it. And we have 6 roasts. And my daughter now runs the business with me. And it's a really great thing. And why it's a really great thing is I was in what we'll call big business once. And most of the people that I worked with were jackasses. I rarely meet anybody in the bird-friendly coffee world that isn't a good person, whether it's a customer, a wholesale or direct, whether it's an importer, whether it's a roast, whether it's a farm, a co-op. And when you go to these countries and you see what these farmers are up against in terms of life challenge, and you see the pressure on them to break away from growing coffee the traditional way, and you see their fortitude in wanting to make this happen. And particularly, if anybody knows anything about Nicaragua, this is a really hard story country. But up in the Northern Highlands, we buy from a co-op called UCA San Juan de Rio Coco. And by getting them into the bird-friendly certification, we've helped them leverage up their pricing to all of their customers. And the other thing about going to Nicaragua in 2008 was, in the coffee world, Nicaragua was not thought of as top quality coffee. Okay, the coffee guys thought, that's for blends and stuff. But we found it to be great coffee. And by buying from these co-ops in these isolated rural areas, we help support what we call local rural economies. And when you have and as these other guys know, and Kirstin knows, bird-friendly coffee takes a lot of labor, and all the other coffee is always Nestle and Starbucks and JAB are all driving to get all of the labor out of coffee, And with this kind of coffee, bird-friendly, fair trade, you can't get the labor out of it because the way it's grown and the way it needs to be picked, you can't get the labor out of it. And so it's been a journey, and I think the story with Wisconsin to me is really great. I figured out that Wisconsin probably has more neotropical migrants through it every year than any state in the United States. And both, birds that nest and birds that come and go further north and back down south. And I thought, well, there's got to be some people out there that like birds, and there were. And we fooled around with Bird City, Wisconsin in like 2010. And but then we met Lisa, and she helped us integrate with the other great people and the other bird conservation groups. and get the bird friendly story out to you all. And it's been good for us. I mean, my daughter is younger and she's got children, so she's more mercenary than I am. But she said, "Daddy, why are we putting all this effort in Wisconsin?" I said, "Because they're good people. There are a lot of birds, and what's happening there, and this is the best part, is the word is getting out. Other roasters are doing bird friendly coffee. Other retailers are doing bird friendly coffee. More people are buying coffee from us online year on year. It's not. I think it's like number. I don't know. It's number 10 maybe. Wisconsin. It's number 18 of our states, but we have customers in every state in the union, including Alaska and Hawaii. And so it's been a great journey. And I can just say this: when you go to the farms and you get on the farms, the amount of abundant wildlife in a commercially viable operation is astonishing. And it's birds and it's plants and it's flowers and it's little animals and it's crazy reptiles and it's like almost like the people are stocking the birds before the buyers get there. So it's been a wonderful journey, and we really love our association with Wisconsin, and yeah, so that's the story.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Thanks also for sharing your perspective on kind of the history, what it was like a while ago with being a bird-friendly roaster. And thanks, Josiah and Matt, for sharing your stories as well. And thanks all three of you for being part of this movement and helping grow it and basically making the world a better place for birds. Um, Thank you for caring. So were there any last questions? Lisa from SOS Save Our Songbirds put some links in the chat to some of the discounts that these bird-friendly roasters are offering if anybody wants to try out their coffees, and some links to places you can buy bird-friendly coffee in general as well. So those are, useful resources. Feel free to take advantage of that. But are there any last questions for either the roasters or for Kirstin? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Kirstin and Josiah and Matt and Bill, for joining us and presenting. I hope everybody learned a lot. I definitely did. And hope you all are excited about switching to bird-friendly coffee. And you will receive a follow-up email after we're done, I think sometime in the next few days, with links to resources mentioned by the speakers and more info about the Natural Resources Foundation, SOS Save Our Songbirds, and SWOBA. And please share all this info about bird-friendly coffee with your family and friends, because they will listen to you before they listen to anyone else, that's for sure. And we all need to participate in this effort, and together we can definitely make a difference. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and enjoy birding during fall migration as well.